I am very excited for our program this evening, how to use Percy, which is something that I think a lot of people really need to know how to use. It's an awesome resource to utilize and add to your genealogy toolbox. My colleague, Allison DePrey Singleton, she is our Genealogy Services Manager. She's been here a little less than a decade now. She's an awesome presenter, awesome researcher, so I am very excited to let her get started.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. That was a very kind introduction. Hello, everybody. You should be seeing my screen share now of the website. I am so happy to be able to present to you today Percy Explorer because we are explorers. We're exploring for our family trees. We're looking to build and find those records that can help us fill out that tree a little bit more. We're looking to add that meat to the bones of your family tree. So, Periodical Source Index, PERSI. I have in the handout the kind of breakdown of why it's called Percy. So the beginning part of periodical, then S in source, and I in index. It just kind of helps you to have a visual at why something's called what it is. There are more than 8,000 periodicals in Percy. These periodicals are from all over the United States, Canada, Great Britain, Ireland, and Australia. Currently, we have over 3,000 subscriptions, current subscriptions, but in Percy in general, there's over 8,000. Now, I like to think of these as boots on the ground. These are the people in the historical societies, the genealogical societies, whether they be at a statewide or even larger level, down to the smallest county or town. And these are the people that are able to get into those courthouses, that are able to walk those cemeteries, that are able to go to the historic buildings and pull the information that you are seeking. They take that information and they put it into these articles, and they could be things like abstracts, they could be entirety of records that they're just transcribing, they could be images of records that could have information that pertains directly to your family. There are more than 3.1 million entries in Percy. So there's something for everyone in this index. And we want you to be successful. I say that at most of my programs and every single tour I give at the Genealogy Center. We want you to be successful. Percy is available for free on the Genealogy Center website for completely free. My favorite four-letter word. You can hop on our website. The link is at the top of the handout. Super easy to get to. You can also go to our website and scroll down and just click here. Super easy as well. Once you click it, you come to this page. Now, before I go into this a little bit further, I just want to remind you that this is an incredible resource to continue your reasonably exhaustive research. You want to make sure that you are checking anywhere and everywhere for those records that you are seeking. And it could be found here. I have actually heard of people finding a transcription of a record that later burned in a fire. That is a completely true story. So make sure you are looking, especially if you cannot find other records surrounding your ancestor or your ancestor's life event that you're looking for, whether it's a marriage or a death event, or perhaps it's birth or parents or something else. You need to check here. All right, so in the handout, you have an image of this, and we're going to talk through each one of these points. The first part is the surnames. So I'm going to go ahead and click in this. And when you do a surname search, it's absolutely fantastic to be able to do that. But I need to remind you that it is searching for the surnames in the titles of the articles. This is not an every name index. We are not indexing the entirety of every article. We are only indexing the titles. So unless your family member is named in each specific article, You may not be finding them just by searching surname, which is why you want to use every single one of these different search possibilities. So we're going to go back here. So make sure you're checking all of them that pertain to your ancestors or your genealogical question or problem. So if we go into surname, I am actually going to do a surname of one of my former colleagues because she mentioned, and it always stuck with me, that searching the surname Church is incredibly difficult because most times when she did that search, it would come back with the denomination or it would come back with the physical buildings of churches, but not the surname. So I wanted you to see that by doing a surname search for the last name Church, it actually brings up surnames. And we can see that we have a nice collection of these. There's 510 entries. I've scrolled down to the bottom to show you that. If I go back up to the top, we see there's a few things going on up here. So it gives you some ideas on how to narrow the location. You can also click here to order articles, which we'll cover a little bit later in the presentation. You can also change how many entries are shown. So you can say, oh, well, I want to see them all at once. Let's see 100 or more of them at once. And you can do a search up here. So I'm going to go ahead and type in a search, and I'm going to do something that might be odd. I'm going to put in new because when you do a term like that, perhaps you're looking for something specific, like a new church, something or another, a new church family moves to town, or whatever it may be. But what I want you to note is that by searching up here in this search well, it searches article titles, periodicals, year published, and publisher all at once. So new, newsletter. Very quickly, I'm not seeing new here, but it might be pulling in Nova. If you scroll down a little bit further, New Orleans, so we're getting that there. Newsletter, we're getting this one here. So you see that it could potentially make it more difficult. So I actually wanted to search title for new, not everything. So I can scroll down and search here. This is how you narrow that down a little bit further. So you can say, I want new in the title. News items, okay. Newspaper, news, Newport. So now we have different new. Here's a New York Sun letter. What if we did want a specific periodical and we were just trying to think, oh, what was the name of it? It was something, something newsletter. Let's see if we can find it. So you can put new in and start seeing, oh, newsletter. It was Loyalist Quarterly Newsletter. And then you have that. Now you notice that they start popping up without me going further. I can add that S and we start getting more of those newsletters, and I can type it out in completion slowly so you can see it's truly, as you add each letter, narrowing down what the results are. I'm going to get out of that one. Maybe it's the year you know. Maybe you know it was published in, 1994. So that's the year that you want to look for. You can see that those ones are the ones that are popping up. I'm going to back out of that one. And maybe it's the publisher. Maybe it's a specific location like New York and you want to see that. Well, I can put in new, and I'm getting a lot of different things. New England, let's see here, Newberry. Okay, what if we put in New York? Well, it's bringing up New York, and it's bringing up different variations of New York. So you can see different options here. So New York, Northeastern New York Genealogical Society, but they're not located in New York City. So you have to look at this and see, okay, how is it breaking it down? If you're looking for the state, it looks like it's all NY. So you can do NY, and it brings up a little bit more results by putting in the postal code, as opposed to typing out New York. So you need to keep that in mind. Sometimes you need to search multiple different of the search wells in multiple ways. It's not a one size fits all. So, something I need to remind you all of as I'm looking at the results and you are looking at these results live in front of you is this is a database that was founded in the 80s. This was something that was utilized in many different formats, including book, CD-ROM, and database. So the formatting has to be something that can outlast all of those different formats. And it can't change too terribly much because of that. So sometimes you'll find something and you'll be like, that's a little quirky. And it may just be because it has to fit in the same format as the previous ones. I'll show you an example of that outside of the surname article search. But I wanted to also show you that you can search first names as well. So you can throw in that John, and let's see, we have John Adams Church obit, we have John and Luella. So you can put in some of those different first names. Now this one isn't actually for a John church, it's John Fleming, but I searched for John in the church results. So this came up. So sometimes you do get the ones that are not exactly what you're looking for, and that's okay. This is a learning experience. This is something that we are all learning at the same time. We're trying to figure out what terms the author would have used in the article title that works best for your family. We are looking at thousands of periodicals and millions of articles that have been written and titled by so many different people who have such different naming conventions. So keep that in the back of your mind. These are indexed by hand, but we can only do so much with a article title if it's what was given by the author of the article. So make sure you remember that. All right, I'm going to go back into the surname search, and I want to do a really common name. Because sometimes we get people that say, okay, I've searched for my Smiths and it is a nightmare to find anything. Okay, so you saw how quick that result was for Smith, which is incredibly nice. I'm going to scroll down and you can see that we have a lot of results here and it just keeps going. So one of the things is when you do have so many results, it doesn't necessarily immediately pick up that you can go into just 10 articles or 50 or 100. So I'm going to go over here and drag it down and let it catch up to me. So you see that it's loading still, but those beginning ones really popped in quickly. So you have to just be a little patient with this, but you saw that it loaded. Once we scroll down, we see that there's 18,565 entries. That's okay. That is still manageable. We can make it work. So what you can do is go into that search article title, and perhaps you are looking for your Tabitha Smith. So maybe that's what you're looking for. So now you have 1, 2, 3, 4 results, and that makes it easier. So maybe you do have that John Smith. Maybe that does make it a little bit harder. Well, we can still narrow the results with John. John, now we have 1,542 entries. Okay, that's feasible. Well, maybe we can narrow it down further. So what if we take John and let's add maybe a postal code? Let's try to get Connecticut to come up. Now, one thing that I will note, and you will find this in the handout, is that if you do a postal code or abbreviation for a state, which is what I recommend doing in here, it will also bring up words that have C and T next to one another. So you can see that doctor is coming up because of CT. Now, that's not as big of an issue because there's only 90 entries. I can go through that very quickly. Very quickly. And you can see, okay, some of these may be helpful, some of them may not, but looking at some of this, I'm going, okay, these are not exactly what I was hoping for. So let's go to the next page. Maybe there's something in here. You want to continue to search and go further. You can also, there we go. Maybe this is your family, the John Cotton Smith. We have that Connecticut. You found it. It's on the third page, so it wasn't that too far of a click. It took us seconds to go through. We now know that it's in the Connecticut Historical Society's collections and bulletin, so it's their 2 different publications. You get to know which of the volumes and issue numbers it's contained in, and then you get our call number. Our call number is located here for each publication, and you can see what year it was published. So you have this great information. Now, knowing that a lot of them have cotton in there, you could even add the search term cotton to see if those come up with even more. But this is a great way to narrow down some of those results. You play around with the different search terms in this surname section. Okay, I'm going to go up here and we're going to go back to Percy. And I'm going to go ahead and have you look at another part of Percy, which is the research techniques. So sometimes when we're researching, we come up against a roadblock and we are not sure where to go next. Now, in this day and age of internet and technology, you can find a lot of answers online, but not all answers online are correct. Many times you'll start searching and you get all sorts of conflicting advice, or perhaps they're telling you to do the absolute wrong thing. So maybe it would help to get a little bit more advice from somebody who's got it published in a periodical. So I'm going to do a search for school records, and this will pop up momentarily. And we can then look and see, okay, these are different research techniques, and I can go to different places. So maybe I'm specifically looking for how to research school records in France. I can click on that, and then it's going to give me different options. So I have article titles, I have the periodicals that they were in, the years published, and the publisher. So now I have more information. It looks like maybe the information I was looking for, perhaps I'm wanting this article. Maybe I need this publication from this publisher. This could be exactly what I'm looking for. And that information could help me find what I'm looking for. Maybe I'm like, oh, well, France, maybe they weren't in France. Maybe it was a different country. Maybe I need to look at Germany. Well, then you can hop in here and take a look as well. So you can see the different things that have to do with school records. And having this information could potentially help you figure out how to get further within your family tree. So make sure you're checking those research techniques articles, because sometimes you can at least even get ideas about what might exist. And maybe you're looking at this and going, well, okay, this is good information. Maybe I can take this article title and Google it and find better results online for what I'm specifically looking for, as opposed to what my search terms were before. I like offering free advice, so make sure that you are trying to find things online, as well as using Percy. Use it hand in hand, because there's so much great information in here. Let's go back here and talk about article title search. So this is going to search the article titles. This isn't going to have the restrictions of it having to be a surname or it having to be a location based. So this is just going to search everything. Now, one thing I like to do is put in manumission and see what comes up, because you can get a lot of different results. And with manumissions, these typically don't always show up in the location of the individual where they lived. They sometimes show up in other locations. So it could be a publication for someone that was from Georgia, but it's in a Oregon City publication. So make sure you're checking that. I did manumission and I got 110 results. And then I can restrict them even further by all of these different categories. So the article title, the periodical, the year, the publisher. Now, I also want to show you at the top of the page, you can use these handy dandy little arrows to sort them. So these are doing alphabetical, and then we have year published. So this one is from 1897. Now, most of you probably already know all about copyright and the fact that many times our hands are tied by copyright. And that's why many things are not digitized, is because they are still under copyright. But if you look at something and you see 1897, that is well out of copyright. I'm going to see if that's online. So then what you can do is start looking for the article title, the periodical title online and see if it's been digitized. Google is your friend. Put the periodical title in quotations, put the article title in quotations. I would also maybe spell out North Carolina, spell out society, play around with it, see what you can find. But this might be something you can find easily online. And then you can see some of these newer publications. And then the publisher also can be switched back and forth alphabetical. So if you already know the location of what you're searching for or the year published or periodical, you can just browse just by playing with these arrows, which can make it easier. Okay, another one that I like to search is to go back to my former colleague's search term that she likes to use for surnames and put in church, because I do think it's fascinating to see what happens. Now, this is going to be another high loading one. I already did an example of what Smith does to the system. And when you search Smith in most any database, it is quite a large number of results. But if we put church in, we're getting everything. So you can see Salem Church Battle. You can see St. Michael in the City Church. You can see there's different church within any of these different article titles. It could be in the periodicals, it could be in the publishers as well. So you need to keep that in mind. The street address could be on Church Street, and it's still going to pop up in here because that is part of that entry. So make sure that you are being very, very careful with your searches. And you can see that this is still loading. I can scroll down a little bit so you can see these are all churches thus far. Oh, here we go, our first surname right there. So that's why you want to use the surname search, and you want to use the other searches as well. So you can do an article search, you can do a location search. And I recommend doing everything. If you're not looking for research techniques, okay, that's fine. I still recommend, if you're up against a brick wall, to do some searches to at least get some other ideas. But the location search, the article title, keyword search, and the surname search are absolutely ones that you need to do for every single one. And you can see church is just absolutely a problem for this right now. Oh, there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and go back. I'm going to let Percy rest for a minute. Now, the one thing I really want you to see is that the location is a really fun and unique way to search. And I typically start in location personally. This is my personal search outline. I start with a location, I go to surname, and then I go to article title, keyword, because I want to see what I can find on the location first, because it's going to be specific to where I am looking for information. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the United States. I want to do a couple examples for you. Now, in the handout, you will see a screenshot, which I think is incredibly helpful. There's two screenshots in there of what the pages look like, because I'm throwing a lot of information at you, and I want to make sure that you remember what you're looking at and how it looks. So the location search is a little bit different. So I wanted you to have pictures in your handout so you knew what it would look like. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say, okay, I want to do a search in, let's do New Jersey. I'm going to pick a county and I'm going to go into Somerset. Search periodical source index, location search. Okay, it's going to come up with all of these different results. And I can see, okay, this is a lot of different categories. How do I know which category or which subject I want to dig into a little bit further? Well, you think about what events would surround your ancestor's life. So if your ancestor, the thing that you're looking for, your brick wall, has something to do with maybe their death event, perhaps you're trying to find their probate record because you need proof of their children, or perhaps you don't know where they're buried and you're trying to figure out where they're buried. That's two very different problems, but both surrounding a death event. So what you want to do is think about which of these categories have to do with death events. Well, the first one is cemeteries. Okay, so you can click on cemeteries here. And again, you're going to get very similar results as you did to the other ones. You have the article title, periodical, year published, publisher. Very standard results here. And we can go down and see, okay, there's different things. And this is where, when we say this is not an every name index, this is where this really comes into play. A lot of these are going to be very generalized, but this could have the information that you're looking for. So sometimes I like to, if I'm looking at cemeteries, go to the year published, because if you were looking for someone whose grave existed back in maybe the 1800s, the stone could be destroyed at some point in time. It could have disintegrated because of the material that the stone was made out of. It could have had vandalism. It could have been in a personal property, and the person who owned the property decided to get rid of the tombstones. There's so many different things that could happen. So I like to look at some of the older publications first and see if I can find the potential graveyard, cemetery, etc., that my ancestor could be in. Because some of these older ones, these are people that could have gone and walked those cemeteries back in 1912, potentially before any of those stones were destroyed or disintegrated or whatever may have happened to them. And that could be the very piece of information that I'm looking for. And you see how general these titles are. It's just telling me this is the Weston burying ground. I don't know the dates of the tombstones. I don't know the dates of the people that were buried there. I just know it's the Weston burial ground. And maybe that's the piece of information that I can say, well, I haven't checked that. Let me try there now. Or let me try the Smith burying ground. And just start going through these and seeing which ones could potentially have my ancestor in it. And you notice it looks like Somerset County Historical Quarterly was going through a phase where they were going through all of the cemeteries and putting information in it. Now, you would have to go and look at the periodical itself to dig further to actually see. But look at this. You have Somerset County Historical Quarterly. It looks like this is just their mission. So every issue, they have another cemetery included here. And how amazing would that be if that's what you were looking for? And these early issues are just going to be some of the coolest stuff. It's going to be the things that could have been destroyed. And you could look at some of the more recent stuff and see, okay, well, what else is happening? Well, you have this burying ground. You have 1784 to 1911, and that could be exactly what you're looking for. And these could be pieces of information that helps. I also find this interesting, abandoned burying ground project notes. So I would personally, just because intellectual curiosity, but also if my family was from here, I would want to look at this article and then compare it to some of these publications about these burying grounds that were published in that same quarterly back in 1912, 1913, 1914. How interesting would that be to see if these are some of the ones that have been abandoned in more recent years? So it's kind of fun to look at how history changes, and maybe you can find that clue on your ancestor that you weren't able to find elsewhere in their burial. Okay, so cemeteries, fantastic. What other death event? Maybe church records? Okay, so we can go in here. Maybe they were a member of a church and you know what church they were a member of, and you can look for that specific church or that denomination. Or you can know, okay, I know they were in this part of the county. Maybe there was a specific church for that. A lot of times looking at the history of a county and then finding out what the church names were, and then going back in here and looking further for those churches can be helpful. But perhaps in here they're going to have those records of the funerals they had. Look at this. Bound Brook Presbyterian Congregation deaths, 1916 to 1917. Maybe that is exactly what you were looking for. You never know. So you have to be creative. So these are church records. And look at this one. It just says Bound Brook Presbyterian Church, 1824 to 1837. What does that mean? Does that mean that article is about the church itself? Is that the founding of the church? Is that the church records? Is it the minutes? Is it something to do with births or deaths? Is it something to do with marriages? You don't know till you look. And sometimes this could be the little bit of hope that you need. So make sure that you're checking, because some of these specifically say baptisms, or this is an abbreviation for baptisms. Make sure to look up abbreviations too. That is 100% in your handout. So be creative. You can search the article titles, but I wanted to make that note that you may not find this entry if you search the article titles, and this may be the record that is specific to your ancestors. So check that. Check every one. There's 184. If you can figure out the denomination or the name of the church, you might have a little bit better luck searching article title, but play around with these. You can do different search terms, so you can put in death or dead. That one doesn't come up. Funeral? Oh, there we go. Burial? Yep, that comes up. Oh, sometimes murder. No. Always curious if that'll come up. But put in those death events. Maybe that'll come up somewhere in there. Okay, let's go back and see what other death event things might be helpful. Court records. Well, sometimes deaths can be messy. Maybe there's something in here. Or perhaps this will help us figure out where the probate records might be. Maybe they consist in a different part of a collection, or maybe a different part of the court than I'm thinking of. Maybe there's something else that I haven't thought of in doing this search, and this will actually bring about a result that I'd never even considered before. So you can see docket entries and this individual's name. I'm just curious what this is. Perhaps that could be helpful if you're looking for that time period. You can see, oh, there's indenture. So you can see there's different pieces. A soldier found dead. Okay, so we have a death event right here. Beautiful. So you can find these things, and sometimes maybe a little bit a category that you wouldn't normally think of right away. Perhaps deeds. I always like to go to history because you never know what you can find here. This is where sometimes that murder, woohoo, look at that, murder comes up. I always find it entertaining to see how people title these articles Religious Revival from William's Murder. I don't know what that means, but I'm curious. I'm very curious. But you can take a look and see if there's something that makes sense to you. Okay, so I'm gonna pull that one back, and then you can do a different search. Maybe you're looking to see if there's something about burials, maybe there's gonna be something about death. Oh, hey, look, Somerville Bound Brook area deaths due to flu epidemic. Maybe that's what you were looking for. Who knows? But that would be a really interesting article to look at. So there's information. Oh, this one just says deaths, 1872. And that wasn't in the cemetery section. That wasn't in the church section. That's in the history section. So make sure you're looking for every category that could have anything to do with the event you're looking for. Let's go back here, Somerset. Okay, so we looked at history. Institutions, maybe they were in a sanatorium or something. Poorhouse births, interesting. There's hospitals, it looks like. So old folks home, interesting. So make sure that you're looking to see in every category that could potentially be helpful. Land records, maybe military if they served and that's when they passed. Obituaries, of course. That would be a really good place to start. Marriages and deaths. There you go for one particular year. Go back in here and we can see what else we have. So we've already gotten down to other records miscellaneous. 100% look through these. You're going to find some really interesting titles. Lots of journals through here, but see if death shows up. Yep, there's death. Bound Brook Chronicle death notices and unclaimed letters from 1889. Again, looking at those death notices. Well, what happens if we put funeral? Nothing. Burial? Nothing. So you have to search different. Died? Nope. Search the same term multiple different ways and different spellings. We haven't even gotten to probate till now. There's 9 records here, but perhaps we already found the information we needed just by going through the other topics. Make sure you're looking at all of those. Okay, so probate could be in any one of these. Vital records. Looks like some of these, okay, so we have overlap. So we already found this one. We already found this one. We have survivors of the influenza epidemic. That's kind of fun. But then we also have more death records and deaths listed that we hadn't found in other locations. So make sure you're checking that. I'm going to go back up here. And I'm using this example very specifically. And then we also have wills. That could be the other thing that would help. And sometimes even just looking at the will records is helpful for the time period, even if it doesn't have your ancestors' will listed, but it gives you more clues about how they were filed, what information was in there. Maybe it gives you more information about the legal process in the area that you're searching for the time period you're searching, because so many different places have different laws, have different courts, and you have to know what they are in order to find the specific records you're looking for. So half of the battle is doing research on the locations before finding the records. But this could be that thing that helps you get a little bit further. This is a tool for you to use. So one of the things I want to note is that you see the categories here and you see all the different number of articles for this specific location. The categories change based on the articles for each location. So if I go back to US and I'm just going to choose another location, let's do Idaho, and I'm going to pick that county. And now you can see there's less. So there's probably less articles that are written about this specific location. And the other thing to note is the beautiful part is these are articles about that location, but the publishers can be in other locations. So it looks like these are different articles and some of them are in Idaho, some in Utah, Missouri, and you can find them just like that in any other location as well. I can go back here and say, okay, I want to go to, let's do West Virginia, and let's do Doddridge. Okay, so a little bit more, but not as many as that county in New Jersey. So we can pull these records as well. So make sure that you're keeping that in mind. And when you're going through these publishers, there's a lot of different pieces of information to keep in mind with them. Some of these may still be in existence, some of them may have gone out of business. So keep that in mind. But also, this is going to become helpful in just a minute when we talk about that. But I wanted to cover those tips for searching Percy. So we've already talked about the fact that you want to use abbreviations. So when you're searching these different categories, I'm going to go back and I'm going to do a search in, let's do New York. And let's go ahead and I'm going to do Ontario County. Okay, so I'm going to pull up history in here and go into search article title. So if I'm looking for something specific, perhaps I'm looking for those cemeteries, and I will see if they have any cemetery records. CEM, history, SIST, or perhaps I'm looking for denominations, so Baptist or Protestant. You want to use the abbreviations, and they may not be the current abbreviations that you would think of, so you have to get creative. Also consider using different search terms, and I've said that multiple times. Death, died, dead, different ways that you say the same thing. So woman, woman, railroad, railway, RR. Like, you have to really dig into the different ways that you might utilize that term. So you have to be creative, and I think that's the beauty of Percy is there's so much here. You just have to put on that history detective hat and get a little creative, which is really fun. Now, make sure that you are also aware, we covered this a little bit, but those letters together, even if you're looking for a state, it'll pull up anything where IL for Illinois are together. So William's a very common one that pops up there. And yes, I'm looking in Ontario County to see if there's articles on Illinois because sometimes there are. You never know where something gets published, and it's absolutely amazing when you can find it. Another thing to note is those years. So if you're looking for maybe the 1850s, you can just type 185, and that should bring up anything that starts with 185. So anything in the 1850s. So you can see all of those. And then we have 1851, 1856. So if I put in 1850, okay, we get that one result. If I put 1850, one result, but by having that open-ended, you get better results. So I wanted to make sure that you all knew that. Okay. So let's talk about how to obtain these articles. I've talked a lot about how to search this, and I really want your searches to be successful. And that's why we dug into this a little bit and tried different types of searches and played around with some of the results. But when you have a citation from Percy, you have the article title, the periodical, the year published, and the publisher. That information, you can utilize that to find the article. Now, the first thing you can do, I'm going to go ahead and plug, visit the Genealogy Center. We would love to see you in person. You would be able to pull every one of these articles from the original materials on our shelves. We have every single one of these that are in this index. So we would absolutely love to see each and every one of you. Now, we understand that that is not feasible for all of you, and that's okay. There's other ways. So the first one that we recommend, besides coming to see us and saying hi, is to contact the publisher. Why? Well, many times they are very happy to assist you in obtaining a copy of that article. So let's say you're looking for this one right here. So let's say it's with the Ontario County Historical Society. What you do, you go ahead and highlight that title, and we open up a new tab, put that in quotations, and search. And now it brings up that it's still in existence, and I can bring up their website. New website coming soon. Delightful. But more importantly, contact information. So what you can do is call them. Call them, find out, do they still have this article? How do you get a copy of that article? Some of that information you can find. You can find it on their website. Perhaps it's in their bookstore or under collections or any other part of this, but sometimes it's just easier to contact. You can also usually click whatever contact button they have. It looks like they have a momentarily hold on research requests, which is slightly disappointing, but that just means we need to go on to the next option. So this is a really good example of saying, okay, well, I can't go to the publisher. Okay, let's go to the next thing. All right, the next thing that I recommend doing is looking for the title of the article in WorldCat. So worldcat.org, if you're unfamiliar, is a fantastic resource for searching items all over the world. So this is a catalog. And so I'm going to put Chronicles in title. So that's going to tell me, okay, first of all, this is going to be a little more difficult because that's a very general title. But I can look over here and I can see if there's a way that I can filter the results. Well, that one doesn't look so good. So I'm going to go into an advanced search and I'm going to go into publisher. I'm going to go back here and get that publisher's name and put that in here and search. And the reason we're doing this, there we go. The reason we're doing this is because we want to find if there's other options. So it looks like Mid-Continent and Allen County both have that. So if you live closer to Independence, Missouri, perhaps that's where you would want to go. You would want to contact them and see if you can go view this article there. Or you can come here. But a lot of times you'll find different articles all over. So another thing that I like to do is click on the author because sometimes there's multiple variations of the same title in here. So it looks like there are two. So the Chronicles, so that's kind of interesting to me. So it looks like somebody has, okay, that one's the first one. Someone's put this in here under two different names. Okay, and then we also have Finger Lakes Community College, so in New York. So you want to check and make sure. Now, you can click on all libraries. It's showing up Allen County first because it actually, I put in Fort Wayne. It knows my location. So you can put in your location and it will tell you exactly where to go to find a copy of that. Always contact the libraries beforehand, find out what their holdings are. You can also look at their catalogs. You can see if it's a library that would potentially interlibrary loan that material to your local library. I think that's always a really good option if possible. I will tell you up front that the Allen County Public Library Genealogy Center is a research library and our materials do not circulate. So you would have to come here in person or you have the option to request the articles from us. Now, I say this last because click here to order articles. Free is my favorite four-letter word, and we do have to charge. And you will also note that it says, please allow 6 to 8 weeks. We hand pull every single one of these and have to copy them by hand and then send them to you, either by mail or email. So it is not the quickest job. So if you want it faster, you may need to track down that publisher and get that information, which is why we recommend that. But This is an option for you. It is $7.50 for each order form, so you can do up to 6 articles for one form, and then it's 20 cents per page copied. Now, that could be copied on paper or copied on a scan, and it can be mailed to you via snail mail or emailed to you. Now, you will also notice that it says prepaid, but then we offer you an email address. There's a couple different options that you can do. You can email us with this form, and we will bill you. We will bill you the $7.50 plus the 20 cents per page. Or you can prepay that $7.50 by just sending it to us in the mail. And you can find our address on our website rather easily just by going down, 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 and here we go. So you can mail it to us if you would like to prepay, but it is not necessary. You can go ahead and submit this and we'll bill you at the time of mailing. Please, please, please make sure to put the title of the article as it is in Percy, the title of the journal, the call number, volume number, and any other information. So the issue number, the month, the year, whatever might be in there, all of that will help us find that specific article easier and faster, and we'll be able to get it to you faster. So I wanted to make sure that you knew we try very hard to get these out as quickly as possible, but you can see with the form, it's all done by hand. So we need to make sure that we get you the best information as possible. Okay, the last thing I want to note, and it is on your handout, we cannot copy periodicals published in Europe. The copyright laws are different. We do not want to break copyright laws. We want you to have those copies, but you're going to need to contact the publisher. So make sure that you are doing that. So I've given you a lot of information in a short amount of time. I hope it hasn't been too overwhelming, but let's go ahead and dive into some questions. I'm going to continue sharing my screen because I have a feeling some of these might be ones that I'm going to show examples for. So let's go ahead and dive into those questions.
A number of people were asking about Boolean operators, asking if quotations work.
So I'm going to go ahead and do German American in quotes. It pulls it up. German American. Okay, let's do German. Oh, let's go back. German and American. I like to pull these up. Now you see that we're getting more results. It's taking longer. Whenever it's taking longer, it means that it's pulling up a lot of stuff. So what that's telling me is that we're getting more than what we would have wanted with that German American. And why would that be? Because it's searching it in different spots. We have a lot of results here.
Asterisks, I can't say that word. Y'all know what I mean. That
Yes.
doesn't entirely work. Am I
You are
incorrect?
correct.
Yeah,
But
that's
there
what I
are
thought.
pieces that work. So the and works, but it can be a little odd sometimes. We'll just say odd. You may not get the results that you really want. Quotations are your best bet. If you're looking for something in particular, use quotations. That is my advice.
There are a couple questions about digitizing periodicals. One person has said, when Percy previously lived on Find My Past, you can download images. Can I download the images of the periodical page from the library? And then as a follow-up, are those images still available in Find My Past?
That is up to Find My Past. That is what they received permission to digitize. That was their agreements with those specific publishers. That was their decisions. So if they have them still on their website, you would be able to see them. From what I have seen, they're still there. They're not as easy to find. And no, we don't have them digitized on Percy. It's an index. If you want to find the articles, there's many different avenues to find them. And if they've been digitized, you can easily find them if they're out of copyright digitized online, you can easily find them through a Google search.
When is the earliest article dated in Percy? So when is the oldest article we have published? I thought, so while you were presenting, I actually sent that question to Kurt Witcher because I thought it was the New England Historical and Genealogical Society Register from 1847. And he emailed me back saying that that wasn't the oldest one. The oldest periodical was published by some St. Augustine, Florida organization around 1826, which that's pretty old.
I'm just going to put in Florida and see if that comes up.
What about going to Florida General,
Yeah,
like
I think I'm
statewide,
going to.
and then go to history because that is often like has the most number of articles in it, just local history,
Maybe,
and then maybe sort by date.
maybe. We'll see. By the way, you can go to a state, but oh my gosh, some of those are overwhelming.
Yeah, don't do it for New
Overwhelming.
York State. It's New York like states like New York or some of those New England states. It's a massive amount of articles if you're doing statewide.
This one just keeps pulling up this 1835 Friends Publishing. So
No, I believe Kurt when he says that the oldest is.
I believe him too.
We're not trying to make a liar out of Kurt Witcher.
I just will promise you that it is probably one of those things where the titles of the articles are something completely not about Florida. I bet you anything it's something
Yeah.
completely just we wouldn't even think of it off the top of our heads.
Which is kind of the beauty of Percy. So, like, if you were, say, browsing the shelves in our library and you're just looking at St. Augustine, Florida stuff, if there is an article about St. Augustine that was published in a periodical that is published out of, say, Georgia, for example, if you're just browsing the shelves, you're not going to find that article because it'll
Nope.
be in the Georgia section in that periodical. So Percy, it opens the door for you to find all that stuff that you wouldn't necessarily find otherwise.
100%. I love Percy. It brings up so many different things that you could never think of.
Can you search multiple names/places within the keyword search?
Yeah. So if you go, okay, let's go back to Percy. Okay, so if you're going into here, and if you're wanting to do multiple names or places, we could do, oh, let's just say we're looking for the Jones family and the Smith family, and we're also trying to find them in New York. Let's see what happens. Well, that's fun. So we're getting different results. Some of these may be exactly what we're looking for, or maybe not. So I put in Jones Smith in New York, and it's pulling up all of them. So what I would actually do, and this is why I wanted to show this as an example, I wouldn't do it that way. I would go back and just start with one of the names. So let's start with Jones. And then I would wait for it to finish loading, and then go down into the article title and filter the results by Smith and NY, because then you're going to get better results. If you try to do all of them, it's going to be searching for all of them, and that's not going to be exactly what you want.
In the
Did that help?
location part of it, well, actually, no, on this part as well. One thing I like to do personally is I like to search, do what Allison's doing right now, and then I'll also search that top search bar as well with a different search term. Now, our Percy indexers who are in our workroom, just in a different cubicle than mine, one of them just sprinted past my desk with a note saying the oldest periodical in Percy is the Massachusetts Historical Society Collections, Volume 1, Number 1, 1792. So we're all wrong. Yay, thank you, Adam.
That is amazing. 1792. I love that.
I love that his spidey senses were tingling, that he heard us talking about Percy and kept running. That was great.
That's amazing. So yeah, so this is how I would search within for multiple names, multiple locations. Play around with the results. Be as creative as you can.
When you find the periodical you want and you contact the publisher, will they send you a copy of the original article?
It depends on the publisher. It depends on their policies. I've had
Sometimes
good
they'll
luck.
send the whole issue.
Yeah, sometimes they'll send you the entire issue. Sometimes they'll send you a copy of the article. Sometimes they'll tell you, "Hey, you need to purchase this for like $2.50." Okay. Most of the times it's if they do charge you, it's a nominal fee, but I've had great success and I've heard people having great success contacting the publisher.
Is it possible to fill the order form online or print it out and hand fill it out? I don't remember if that form is fillable.
It depends. So if you open it up within Adobe, it is fillable. If you open it up just as it is, it's not. So now the other thing is some people will open it up and I've seen people open it up in Paint and then just do text boxes over it and just type it in.
Yeah.
Do whatever you need to do.
As long as the information is correct and we can find the periodical, do what you got to do.
Exactly. Make it work for you.
So another question about plans to digitize any or all of these various manuscripts. And then they said, or is that a copyright/permission issue?
It
Right.
is 100% a copyright permission issue. And since we have over 8,000 periodical titles in Percy, that is an undertaking that is monumental.
If we didn't get to your question, please send us an email. Our email is genealogy@acpl.info. If you'd like a copy of the chat as well, send us an email for that as well. The last question, how up to date is the Percy indexing? Up to
Yes.
date is relative.
Yes. Okay, so a thing to note, these are indexed by hand. There are individuals that are in here and they are going through these articles and indexing them. Since we have over 3,000 current periodicals that we have subscriptions for, they are not all 100% up to the current subscription year, but they are close. So if there's one that you are absolutely dying to figure out if the periodical is indexed up to whatever year it is, just contact us. Contact us and we'll find out and let you know. We do the best we can, and I think that's all anybody can ask.
Yeah. And if you are with one of these societies that publishes one of these periodicals and you want to know the last time it was indexed, if you think it hasn't been indexed in a while, same advice. Send us an email. You lose nothing by sending us an email.
Exactly. And we want you to be successful. We want your searches to be successful. So please contact us.
Great. So we are out of time. Thank you everybody for joining us this evening. And thank you, Allison, for such a great tutorial on how to use Percy. So I hope all of you enjoy the rest of your evening and tune in for our next program, which will be Tuesday at 2:30. Have a good night.